Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Motherland Fort Salem series finale. A great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode. Rael is in pretty bad condition, and obviously with everything going on, their plan is to attack the mycelium, and it's starting to take its toll on her because she is connected to him. I mean, not just her. Eventually, everyone will be, but obviously Rael's feeling it the most because her and Alder are the ones that are the most directly connected to the mycelium. So this is kind of them going all in. This is their last hurrah. They have to see this through. They're all going to go to Fort Salem and take back Fort Salem. It's their home, and the last thing they're going to let is like a whole bunch of intruders run free in their home again. So, and Acacia saying what she said to the others, I guess should have been like that line of like, oh, you should have. I mean, but it's that thing of anyone could have gone. Like, truth be told, it's like you never knew exactly how this ending was going to go down. It makes you wonder how different the ending probably is compared to like what they might have. Because the endings always change all the time, just as things kind of go along. Like, was this always going to be the ending? Like once again, like who determined this was going to be the final season? Was it the network? So maybe they scrapped some ideas they had for season 3 because they were like, we're getting one final season, or did they already know they were going into their finals? Like, was it always planned to be 3 seasons? Was it planned to be more? Like, so conversations like that make you wonder, like, how, so even then, like, along the writing process, like, where did the ending change? So, that's why I still feel like anyone could have technically bit the dust in this finale. The fact is we walked away with, like, technically one good guy, major casualty, and Acacia, jumping ahead a little bit. It's like, it's sad because you wanted and I think it's a poetic epilogue episode to have after last episode where everyone was happy and everyone was together. For this to be the end, it's very befitting. But it's like, right, you wanted everyone to have a happy ending, and most people did. Not everyone, sadly, not Sterling and Acacia. They found their way back to each other back during, was it last season when they first rekindled, or was it during season 1? I don't remember. It might have been I think it might have been during season 1 that they rekindled. So it's like, after all this time, and just they don't get their happily ever after, and that's the heartbreaking thing too. But she sacrificed herself to save the others. That Saturn's ring ability was pretty sick as hell, bringing down like a storm like that. But because the Camarilla are equipped and they've adjusted their thing so that they can block out all sound, so making it so like, right, your abilities don't go through, but ours can. So it's meant to stifle them and put them at a disadvantage. But, and Acacia is sacrificing herself like that, especially after she gave that beautiful goodbye to the others, to those 3. It's like, right, you guys, like from the very beginning, I always knew it was going to be like, you guys made a perfect combination. I saw, and everyone kind of knew, and, she couldn't be more proud of them. And also says, look out for this one, and her and Scylla actually hug. It's like, I do like that. Despite, the circumstances that brought them together, there is still a beauty of, like, the friendship they forged last season, and now this. It's just like, right, like, all 4 of them together, she's proud of them, and it's like, right, hopefully they wanted to see each other on the other side of all of this, but sadly, Acacia is gone. But there is the beauty of every daughter that dies returns to the mycelium, so regardless of it all, Acacia will always kind of be there to some extent. I mean, she lives on through them, so it kind of sucks, but she made sure to save everyone. I do appreciate them all getting geared up and everything, and Tally being like, her and Grigori, and it's like, well, you're not the only one who got charged up during that, and she's like, what? When did you guys have time? And then, like, what was it? Scylla was like, oh yeah, like a wife always finds time or something like that. Because she's like, with everything that was going on, you guys are literally getting married and everything that's happening, so many guests. Like, how did you have time to bang it out? Someone's like, yeah, they made time. And everyone's getting geared up and ready. And I love Adil and Abigail. It's like, oh, like, where'd she go? And like, after this is done, we need to talk about our honeymoon. It's like, oh, well, what about Europe? It's like, nah, not that. It's like, think about the beach. And Adil's like, well, if never seen the, I've never been to the ocean. It's like, well, the ocean it is, as they're like killing people as they're heading down the stairs. So, but it was kind of like a final stance, and there's your boy Hearst. What turns out Isadora is not dead. I was actually surprised. I mean, to be fair, we didn't see her die on screen, but I think it makes sense why Hearst would want to keep her alive, because it's like, right, we're both the scientists on our respective sides, and he's like, I wish I could have gotten time to like talk to you. So I think that's why he spared her, simply because it's like, well, for one, get the information I need, but two, also because it's like you'd understand the mycelium in a way no one else can. So from one scientist to another, and I'm assuming he was pumping her full of stuff that would make her more complicit and complacent with what he was trying to get from her. But Isadora laughing, it's like, oh, this is how it's going to end. She's going to kill all of you, and she's laughing maniacally, and he's just kind of trying to act smug, but it's like, yeah, it bothered him and got to him. They ended up taking Penelope. I wonder what their original plan was going to be with Penelope. I'm sure they were probably going to use her as like a major... Well, he wanted to dissect her considering her circumstances. So it's probably a situation of he probably would have used that opportunity to kind of use her against the mycelium. Maybe that she would have been like the final like kickoff thing of like weaken the mycelium enough and use Penelope / the witch plague that is, well, her now, and use that to finish off the mycelium. Maybe that was the original plan. It was probably a combination of that plus wanting to study and examine everything. But when things with the mycelium got bad, like obviously it affected Rael, but in that moment, like kind of like the fungus from the mycelium kind of escapes from her, almost like kind of the witch plague to some extent, and it kind of bleeds over into Adil and Scylla, and it's killing them in the process. Which even heartbreakingly enough, like Adil's like, hey, when the time comes, like break our bond. I don't want you to get dragged down with me. But for her, it's like, no, I need you to live. Like we'll find a way past it. It's like we still got to go to the beach, remember? And Rael opened a portal so that they all end up in the mycelium. I guess kind of at the root, at the very core of the mycelium is where they kind of ended up, which is where Tally's vision was. Luckily, Nick just showed up in time to bail them out. Sterling, that whole scene with Sterling and Isadora, it's just like, y'all, here's Penelope. It's like, make them pay, and it's like, ooh, yeah, revenge time. And Albin's so happy, he's just kind of like, oh, it's all working out. Even Blanton's kind of like, yeah, it's not going according to plan. It's like, yeah, wasn't planning on getting exposed and arrested and tried for treason. It's like, wasn't expecting that. So nothing went according to plan, because Kara's not even here. She's off doing something else, which I think that's going to be really interesting when we kind of talk about the ending and everything. But when it's all said and done, Hearst is just so smug and everything. And the moment like Isadora is giving him the drinks and stuff, I'm like, she put Penelope in there, didn't she? I was like, she's gonna do she didn't quite do it, but I was expecting her to kind of do a Alder, because Alder did that like earlier when she was trying to kill everyone. When they were in a session, how she like exploded from people's bodies. I thought like that's exactly what was going to happen. It's like Penelope didn't. Instead, like she overwrit their body. She basically melted their bodies, because like you don't see all the disgusting elements of it, but they basically got gooed. They were basically she kind of basically puts their bodies in acid. I guess it'd be very similar to like the was it paint thinner? What was it in Roger Rabbit that killed the Toons? It's basically that, because like you see his body melting. It's like, I want you to be, I mean, it sounds like you're in excruciating pain, but I wanted you to suffer more. But now it's happening. I kind of wanted you to see it coming, but it's just like you deserved so much. You deserve that like 10 times over. And for, Silver, he's like, no, I'm sorry. Like, they didn't tell me they were going to hurt you. They promised they wouldn't. I'm sorry. I didn't know what. It's like, yeah, you still let them like inject me. And he's like, I'm so sorry, I love you. And she's like, I love you too, and ends up killing him in the process. We don't see Penelope for the rest of the episode, so that might have been the last of all she was killing him in the process. So I figured as much. That was kind of been my thing of like the moment Penelope was thrown back into the show, I'm like, oh, she's going to be the one that kills Silver. It's like, it's only poetic that he kind of set the circumstances up. He sacrificed his daughter. She'd be the one to come back and be his undoing and his unmaking and literally turning him into goop as well. So I think because of the nature of the witch plague, it kind of covers it up. But like I said, I get the feeling like they were probably liquidized and like all that was left was like goop and bones, you know, so... I kind of assume that's kind of what that is. But when it's all, you know, it's all poetic in the end. At the same time, this is all going down. Alder is in, she was searching Africa for the final steward, and she ended up in Ghana, which they were kind of on high alert, like, yo, you're back, like, what are you doing here? It's like, don't have time to explain all of this, so she bounces. But finding some records, she finds out about the particular bloodline, one of the stewards, in that this particular steward she was looking for, that bloodline was sent over or sold into Virginia. And I was like, oh, so the final blood. Because the moment they mentioned Virginia, was like they were sold into slavery. So the bloodline is stateside. And the moment that happened, I was like, it's got to be Abigail, isn't it? Because Abigail made a whole point, and they even recap it at the beginning. Last episode, Abigail said so much of their history was going. It's like, right. It turns out. Like, because the name they had given her isn't her real name. The name that was that particular member is Jim, her ancestor. But like, once again, so much of their history was lost. She was probably like fairly young at the time, so she remembered like that's what the Earth and Sky is all about. Like, Jim was able to do work that no one else could. There was a song like she had learned from her grandmother, but it was still kind of a little lost to her. But it was a song that was supposed to be used at a very predetermined time. And so, I mean, it also fits poetically because now Tally is a steward. You have Abigail being a steward, and also Rael being the witch bomb. It's like, I mean, it was always this trio was always something special from the very beginning. And so... for it to all kind of culminate in that, and obviously it's like, oh, you know, they're worried because it's like, right, the vision always kind of been leading us here, and it's not till Tally kind of pieces it together, like, no, everything was meant to happen. The mother wouldn't bring us here just to kind of end the world, would she? It's like, there has to be a greater plan. Like, she's like, I saw up to this point, but I never saw what was afterwards. I just got so focused on what I saw, I didn't think about the aftermath, because I think to some extent, it's like she wanted to show you the beginning pieces, but you had to figure out the rest of it on your own. Like, it's almost because even the studies that what Alder was reading about the Bellwether family, you know, back before they were the Bellwethers, is that with Jim, it's like that song can make or destroy the world or remake it depending on how it's sung. And so it's all about their journey leading them all here. So Alder shows up with the other stewards and they all sing together. In that moment, the first song finally reunites since forever, and it all goes to Rael with her kind of using like pouring everything into like a big witch bomb, but it's going to encompass the entire earth. And in that moment, it circles the entire world in a giant kind of coating, almost like a barrier. And I wonder, is that just like the state of the world forever? That the first song is in constant rotation loop. You won't be able to miss it. Well, you can. I think so. I think because everyone and everything has changed now. They're entering a whole new world. And the fact is that I think the first song will be in constant rotation now forever. I think it's going to be kind of how that goes. Because the way because at the end of it all, it seems like everyone shifted a little bit. Like, we don't fully know well, I guess for Abigail, the shift in her was the combination of Earth and Sky. That was kind of like her whole deal. Like, she thought it was just her and a deal, but it's more, and maybe it's still representative of that combination of her and a deal. Maybe that finding love and finding someone she cares about and having her unit with her, like, maybe all of that changed Abigail into who she is, so that changed her song into what it became. Because this is Abigail, again, this would have been an Abigail who could have easily destroyed the world, but the Abigail she is now is one that has changed so much she's found another, like, her family's grown in the process. She's grown in the process. She's changed so much that I think that's where this kind of plays. I think that's where the change in her probably goes forward, and probably like her abilities change even more. Because I love that line of Tally is, Tally's sight, Rael's care, and Abigail's fury. But the moment that kind of got introduced, I was like, are they supposed to be like the three sisters of fate? Interesting timing because, Sandman on Netflix, so it's just kind of interesting. But it's like, I was wondering if that's kind of like, but I guess like almost from a biblical standpoint, you could be like the three wise men, maybe? Like, is that kind of, I mean, I guess it's like, pick your, religion or mythology you want to pull from. I'm leaning more, Sisters of Fate, kind of what came to my mind immediately, but I'm like, three blind men are the three blind women, I guess, in this particular case, but I'm leaning more towards like Sisters of Fate type of situation. Either way, but the other thing I was going to say about seemed like it shifted was Raelle, because in that moment she touched the ground and she was able to heal Adil and Scylla, but she didn't have to say her normal, like, chant to kind of make, like, the thing she kind of learned from her mom that helped her focus when it came to healing people, and it seemed like she healed them. So I was like, oh, because I'm wondering, like, is the witch bomb in her gone, and now her power is, she is the healer of the team, so, like, maybe her powers have, like, shifted over from Riley to just been, like, a witch bomb power. Maybe it's still there, but now it's in the form of healing, or maybe it's, like, she has a more enhanced heal, but also has still the witch bomb power. I don't know. Because even Raelle was almost surprised when she kind of healed them. She was almost like, whoa. I like putting it in video game terms, if you're familiar with like Final Fantasy or even Kingdom Hearts, going from Cure or Cura to Curaga. Basically, it's like, oh, this is like the more powerful form. Like, oh, Cure's the basic form, and like Curaga is like the strongest form of healing. So like, what if that's kind of where she at? She went from like Cure or Cura to Curaga. Like, that's kind of like the metaphorical example I'm going to use. So I'm wondering if that's supposed to be representative of what that is. I was hoping, with the whole circumstances of who and what older situation is, I thought she might be able to go like, okay, my time's already up, so maybe with the mother's blessing, I can pass on what I have to bring Anacostia back. I thought that was something that could have happened, but it's like, if they were able to kind of get to her probably like before she actually died, but it seemed like she pretty much died on impact from the car, so there was probably sadly no saving her or necessarily 100% bringing her back. I mean, Raelle wasn't there to kind of really help in that regard, but still, I was just hoping that something different would have happened. But Nicta and Alder being like, yeah, we need to talk, and Nicta's like, yeah, you think? And I was like, are you gonna? And she does. She goes back to her OG face. Well, a version of her OG face. Obviously, like, she still like doesn't show her scar, like what her face really looks like, with the scars and damage to it. But Alder kind of apologizes, like, right, what I did to you, you never deserved it. But even Nicta's like, yeah, but I spent so much of my time hating you instead of like living my life. She's like, I mean, because I learned that I'm actually kind of fun. It's like, you? Fun? It's like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, I'm working with Wade for now, mostly, so it's like, it's her way to make amends. She's like, just like you're trying to make amends to me now, so once again, it's poetic that one of the last scenes in the show would be them together, But Tally's sight allowed her to see the barrier all across the world, and they went, and Alder talks to them, but it's the mother speaking through her, saying that there was no such thing as like witches is just a word that people made up. When I joined with the six women, I changed their voices and their hearing, and eventually they gave birth to different bloodlines that would eventually become known as witches. But with this barrier, we're all the same. And it's like, well, what about a Camarilla? Same thing. Like now, because at first I was like, oh, are you awakening the witch in like every bloodline that's out there scattered around the world? It's like, no, everyone has the potential to be a witch because everyone's voices and hearing have been changed because of the first song. Like, this is how you change the world, by like no longer making us different. Like, we are all one people singing the same song now. And it turns into a situation of she's like, the world's going to need new stewards, and it's going to be you three. So how I interpreted that, and maybe this is my misunderstanding, but it's like, yes, everyone's a witch now. Once again, witch is just a word, but now they've all been changed. Whether they accept it or not is going to be their thing, and that's going to be the interesting. Blanton and Hurst are gone, but Kara's still around, and now she's potentially a witch. They've all become the thing that they hate. Now the question is, how do they respond to that? There's still going to be resistance with some of the Camarilla, but it's like, we're supposed to all be in this together, but the world has changed. Everyone has changed, and they're going to be the three goddesses kind of leading this world going forward. And Alder's mission is finally over. So I figured when it was all said and done, she would kind of go back to rest. Like, this is the mission she was given, and this is how things will end. So she kind of returns to the mother. So this is probably the last time, in this world, they're probably, unless like the mother needs someone else, but she probably won't. These three here is probably enough going forward. Them as the stewards is what matters most. So, as these goddesses. So it's like, right, let's begin this new world, as you see like the first song wrapping around the world, still filling in those little gaps, but completely encompassing the world. So I like an ending like that, where it's like, right, it's the end of this story, and yes, we won't get a continuation of it, but you can imagine that, yes, in the future, this story can continue. There's still more story to tell as things shift. Nicta's still working with Wade. The Camarilla, any remnant, still trying to fight against all of this. These three kind of shepherding the world in a new direction, each bringing a pillar, once again, sight, care, and fury to it all. So kind of seeing how they would reign, and how they'd mold and push this world in a new direction, what that would look like would be so interesting. But obviously so poetic. Obviously, it started with this three, and of course it would end with this three. So... because even Scylla, because Rael was like, why am I the one who has to bear this? And Scylla's like, because you're the only one in the world who can bear it. So that's why you were chosen. That's why you. So I just thought, like I said, overall, like a happy ending. I'm still kind of bummed about the Anacostia thing, but it's just the price of war. But it sucks that it played out like that. But a new world heralds forward, and I guess these three would kind of be the heralds of this new world. So overall, I still think it's kind of a beautiful ending and what it means for the world changing in so many ways. So obviously these are just kind of my thoughts about it, but yeah. I wasn't quite sure how it would end, but to know that this was kind of like the mother's ultimate plan, it was never like 100% like, oh, like wipe out the world. I was like, is that really what? But it's like, right, that's what Rael's mom was like, oh, like you, the mother still has a plan for you, and she'll call upon you. It's like, well, they all had a part to play in this, and it is almost destiny. I mean, it's not almost destiny, it is destiny that brought this trio together, because they were always destined for this. They had a great purpose that they just weren't aware of. So but yeah, obviously I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I got to it obviously late. I watched and reviewed season 1, but that was like a little before season 2 came out. But still, having been able to join, I've enjoyed this ride along. I thought this is, and once again, it's that thing of like, there's still so much lore in this world we never got to fully explore, but I think it's just one of those great mysteries that, maybe we never got in. I wonder, would they have, like, that's also, like, that's the thing I have to look into. I wasn't 100% sure. I don't think they went into this, like, 100% being like, we're going to only do 3 seasons. I don't think. I get the feeling like they probably could have gone longer, but probably Freeform gave them a final season like this, because like I think when they announced their season 3, I don't think it was initially announced as the final season, but maybe it was, and I'm just not remembering. At least I think the promo at the time didn't say so, but I think when I looked it up afterwards, it said it was going to be the 3rd and final season. Maybe I don't remember at the time, but either way, like I said, I've still just thoroughly enjoyed this show, and it is this sad situation to see it end, but like I said, I do like that it is still an open story of like, yes, this story is ended, but a new one begins. Once again, we may not get to see that story, but it's still the fun of like theorizing and thinking about how things would progress, and the struggles and the accomplishments, and the love and just everything that would come their way going forward in this brand new world. So like with always these situations, to the cast and crew, and to everyone in front of the camera, behind the camera, I appreciate everyone for bringing this wonderful series to so many people. And thank you so much. And like always, I wish every person involved with this project, the series, the best in their future endeavors. Yeah. That moment at the end where the moment the recording winds down, that's when it really starts hitting you, being like, yeah, this is the end. So, but enough of me rambling. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.